The call came at 3:14 a.m. "Ma'am, this is Officer Delgado with the Savannah Fire Department. Your mother's house on East Jones Street is gone. She made it out, but she's at Memorial Hospital. Smoke inhalation. You need to get here." Emily Carter hung up the phone in her Washington, D.C. apartment and stood perfectly still in the dark. 6 years of silence. 6 years of birthdays ignored. Mother's Days deleted from her calendar. And one brutal Christmas fight she replayed every time she couldn't sleep. Now the only home she had ever known was Ash. And the woman who raised her was alone in a hospital bed. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just booked the first flight out of Reagan and whispered the same 4 words her mother used to say when the power went out during hurricanes. "We'll get through this." By sunrise the next morning, 3 planes landed in Savannah. Emily, 42, power suit wrinkled from the red eye, briefcase still in hand like armor. Jessica, 38, Denver artist who showed up in paint-splattered jeans and a hoodie that smelled like turpentine and regret. Lily, 34, San Francisco photographer who arrived barefoot in the terminal because her sandals had broken somewhere over the Rockies. None of them had spoken to one another in years either. Not really. Group texts on birthdays. A heart emoji if someone posted a new baby. That was the extent of it. They met in the hospital lobby like strangers who shared a last name. Ginny Thompson, Virginia to the nurses, mama to the girls who used to fight over who got to sit in her lap, looked tiny in the hospital bed. 71 years old, oxygen cannula in her nose, white hair wild against the pillow. The smell of smoke still clung to her skin. When the 3 of them walked in together, Ginny's face crumpled like wet paper. "Y'all came," she whispered, southern drawl cracked and raw. "My babies came home." Emily was the first to step forward. She didn't hug her mother. Not yet. She just reached out and touched the thin blue blanket, like she needed proof it was real. "We're here, Mama." The house was unrecognizable. They stood on the sidewalk the next afternoon, the 4 of them, staring at the blackened skeleton that used to be 214 East Jones Street. Spanish moss still dripped from the live oaks like nothing had happened. The azaleas Ginny had babbied for 40 years were scorched black. A single white porch swing, somehow untouched, hung crooked from one surviving chain, swaying in the humid breeze like a ghost. Insurance would cover most of it, the adjuster said. But Ginny shook her head before he even finished. "I'm rebuilding it," she said, voice steady for the first time since the fire. Exact same floor plan. Same wraparound porch. Same dumbwaiter Tom installed in '98 that never worked right. Same everything. Emily laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "Mama, you're 71. You can't." "I can," Ginny cut her off. "And I will. With or without y'all." The silence that followed was so heavy the cicadas stopped singing. Jessica spoke first, soft. "We'll stay 2 weeks. Help get the plans drawn up. Then we have to get back to our lives." Ginny looked at each of them, really looked, and something ancient and exhausted moved behind her eyes. 2 weeks, she repeated. "That's what you said the last time you left too." The words landed like a match on dry tinder. They rented a little blue cottage 3 blocks away on Gaston Street. 2 bedrooms, 1 pull-out couch, and a kitchen the size of a postage stamp. Every night they ate takeout on paper plates because none of them could stomach the idea of cooking in a stranger's pots. The first week was all business. They met with the contractor, Mr. Earl Jenkins, 78 years old, the same man who built the original kitchen cabinets when Ginny and Tom brought Emily home from the hospital in 1982. He still called Ginny Miss Virginia, and the girls them Carter babies. Permits. Architectural drawings. Choosing bricks that matched the 1904 originals. Lily took hundreds of photos of the ruins for reference. Tears streaming down her face the whole time but never once asking for a break. Emily handled the money, spreadsheets, wire transfers, arguing with the insurance company like it was a hostile deposition. Jessica painted watercolor studies of the house as it used to be so the builders could see the trim details. They worked like women trying to outrun something. And every single night, Ginny sat on the tiny front porch of the rental in her rocking chair, staring toward Jones Street like she could will the house back into existence by sheer stubborn love. The cracks started showing on day 9. They were sorting through the few salvageable items from the ruins, things the firefighters had pulled out and set on blue tarps. A half-melted silver picture frame. Tom's old pocket watch stopped forever at 11:47 p.m. Ginny's grandmother's cast iron skillet, blackened but intact. Emily found the photo album. It was warped, pages stuck together, but most of the pictures had survived. There they were, 3 little girls in matching Easter dresses on the front steps. Ginny and Tom slow dancing in the living room on their 25th anniversary. Lily, age 4, asleep on her daddy's chest. Ginny reached for it with shaking hands. Emily pulled it back. "You don't get to cry over these now, Mama. Not after everything." The words came out before she could stop them. Ginny went very still. "What exactly did I do that was so unforgivable, Emily Grace?" "You told me I was going to end up alone," Emily said, voice cracking. "At Daddy's funeral. You said, 'You're just like him, always running. You'll die rich and lonely just like he did.' I was 29 years old and you told me that at his graveside." The air left the room. Jessica whispered. "She said the same thing to me when I moved to Denver. Called me selfish for chasing paint instead of grandbabies." Lily, the baby, the one who had always tried to keep the peace, started sobbing so hard she couldn't speak. Ginny sat down hard on a charred timber, the album in her lap like a dead child. "I was drowning," she said finally. "Your daddy was gone. The house was too quiet. Every room smelled like him. And y'all were leaving me too. One by one. I thought if I could make you mad enough, maybe you'd stay out of spite. I know it don't make sense. But grief don't make sense, girls. It just hurts." She looked up at them, eyes red and ancient. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. And I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry it took my whole world burning down for me to say it out loud." The silence that followed lasted almost 3 full minutes. Then Emily did something none of them expected. She knelt in the ashes, right there in her $400 pants, and laid her head in her mother's lap like she was 8 years old again. Jessica and Lily joined her. 3 grown women crying in the dirt while the Savannah sun beat down and Mr. Jenkins pretended to be very interested in his tape measure on the other side of the yard. That was the night everything shifted. They stopped working like it was a job and started working like it was healing. Mornings were for demolition and memories. Afternoons for decisions. Evenings for truth. They learned things about one another they had never known. Emily's marriage had ended 6 months earlier. Her husband had left her for his 28-year-old associate. She hadn't told anyone. Not even her assistant. Jessica had been diagnosed with severe anxiety 2 years ago. She took medication now and went to therapy every Tuesday like it was church. The paintings she sold for thousands were the only time she felt calm. Lily had lost a baby at 20 weeks last year. Her boyfriend of 7 years had left her in the hospital parking lot the same day. She hadn't been able to pick up her camera since. Ginny listened to every word without interrupting. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she just held their hands so tight her knuckles went white. And slowly, brick by brick, the house rose again. They argued over paint colors. Emily wanted crisp white. Ginny wanted the original Savannah cream. They compromised on both. They fought about the kitchen island until Mr. Jenkins threatened to quit. They laughed until they cried when the dumbwaiter actually worked for the first time in 30 years. On week 7, Ginny had a heart episode. Not dramatic. Just chest pain and dizziness while they were installing the new porch ceiling fans. The ambulance came, lights and sirens down Jones Street just like the night of the fire. The girls rode with her. All 3 squeezed in the back of the ambulance holding her hands. In the ER while they waited for the cardiologist, Ginny D at them really looked and said the words that broke the last wall. "I don't want to die without y'all knowing how proud I am. Not of what you became. Of who you are. My fierce, stubborn, beautiful girls. I love you. Even when I didn't know how to show it." Emily rested her forehead against her mother's. "We're not going anywhere, Mama. Not this time." They finished the house without her. For 3 weeks Ginny stayed at the little blue rental on Gaston while her daughters, her estranged, broken, magnificent daughters, worked 18-hour days in the Georgia heat. They hung the porch swing themselves. They planted the azaleas. They placed the final piece of crown molding at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday night. Exactly the time Tom's watch had stopped. When they brought Ginny home, she was blindfolded. They walked her up the new front steps, wide, welcoming, painted that perfect Savannah cream. The porch smelled like fresh paint and magnolia. The swing creaked softly in the evening breeze. Lily untied the blindfold. Ginny stood perfectly still for a long moment, taking it in. The house looked exactly like it had the day they brought each baby home from the hospital. White columns. Black shutters. The brass knocker shaped like a pineapple that Tom had bought on their honeymoon in Charleston. But it was more than that. It was the 3 rocking chairs lined up on the porch. The new wreath made of seashells Lily had collected on Tybee. The little herb garden Jessica had planted in the exact spot Ginny used to grow basil. The porch light Emily had chosen because it cast the same warm glow as the old one. Ginny's knees buckled. The girls caught her, one on each side, and lowered her gently into the porch swing. She ran her hands over the smooth wood, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. "You brought it back," she whispered. "You brought us all back." They sat there until the fireflies came out. For generations of Thompson women on that porch, rocking slowly, the way they used to when the girls were small and the world was simple. Emily spoke first, voice thick. "I quit my job in D.C. I'm opening a small firm here. Closer to home." Jessica smiled through tears. "I'm teaching art at SCAD in the fall. Part-time. Enough to live on and still paint what I want." Lily laughed, the sound bright and new. "I'm staying too. Got a studio space on Broughton. And I'm adopting a little girl from foster care. She's 3. Her name's Grace." Ginny closed her eyes and leaned back in the swing, the night air sweet with jasmine and second chances. "Grace," she repeated softly. "Perfect name." They stayed on that porch until the sky turned the color of peach sherbet. No one wanted to go inside. Not yet, because the house wasn't just wood and brick anymore. It was forgiveness. It was the place where 3 daughters finally came home to the mother they had run from. And somewhere in the quiet between the creak of the swing and the song of the cicadas, Virginia Thompson felt her husband's hand on her shoulder one last time. She smiled into the Savannah night and whispered the only words that mattered. "Welcome home, babies. Mama's got you." The end.